How We Make Movies is brought to you by Microsoft Surface, Assimilate, Azo and AJA, Moviola, and Canon Hollywood. Hello and welcome back to How We Make Movies. I'm your host, Amanda Lippert, and our guests today are director Anthony DiBlasi and distributor Ryan Turek, who will be talking to us about the making of their new thriller, Missionary, which was released on Halloween this year. The film is starring Dawn Olivieri, who plays a struggling mother trying to create a better life for her and her son when she meets and has an affair with a handsome Mormon missionary, played by Mitch Ryan, and that's when things start to get a little intense. So let's give a warm welcome to Anthony and Ryan. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this film. I kind of talked a little bit about it, but I want to hear more of, you know, the rundown.
It's a dramatic thriller, which is it's akin to like a Fatal Attraction story. Mm-hmm. But you know, the hook is with a Mormon missionary. It's a pair of Mormon missionaries that are introduced in the movie, and one of them has an illicit affair, which is against against all their rules. But it took us down the path of making that movie because one of our writers was Mormon, and just, to me, that was a big insight into a world that is quite mysterious. They're like the Freemasons, have a very mysterious religion, which is fascinating.
And yet at the same time, they're so, like, such an American institution.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then he loses his mind. You forgot to add that.
Yeah.
Little, you know, he has the illicit affair.
Oh yes,
then
he does. He loses his mind, as does Fatal Attraction.
That's, you know,
that happens to everybody.
as affairs,
right?
as affairs go.
That's
you know?
love. That's love. That went without saying.
Well, what's love got to do with it? So this is really fun. Do you guys want to see the trailer? Yeah. It's really cool. All right, let's watch it.
I'm going home, oh yes. I'm going home, oh yes. I'm going home, Lord, Lord. I'm going home. I'm going home, oh yes.
Hey there. How are you today?
Hi, great.
We'd like to share a message about Christ with you and your family. Do you have a minute? Do you mind?
We'd like to thank thee for leading us to this wonderful, wonderful family today.
I wanted to thank you for helping out with Kesley.
It's our pleasure. I mean, he's a really good kid.
What are we doing? I'm 10 years older than you and we're sleeping together.
What we're doing is so right. It's two lives drawn together by God's hand.
Hey, look at Dadgum.
I love this family more than anything.
You guys must be the Mormons, right?
Hi.
I should have never let it go down the path that it did. It's just a mistake.
I am not a mistake.
This is not a solution.
Ian?
Have you guys seen Kesley Kingsman?
Pretty sure he was with that Mormon.
You need to find them right now. That guy is dangerous.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
I've already replaced you with your wife. And soon enough, I'll do the same with your son.
I need to get a restraining order.
Restraining orders don't work.
No one is ever going to separate us again. We are meant to be together.
I'll never open the door to a missionary ever again.
Should be opening the door to strangers in general.
Oh yeah, that's right. My mom did tell me that once.
They're living in my building downtown right now.
Do they look at you weird? Do they know about the movie?
I'm sure they do know about the movie, but they don't know that I made the movie.
Okay, so when you pass them in the hallway, there's not that like moment of awkwardness?
There is, but
it's not because
it's
of
just
that.
No, I just thought it was funny that they've been in there for about a year now because they cycle out. There's been like 3 different groups of missionaries that just use the same apartment.
That's so strange. Because I never stopped to think about, like, where do they come from? Where do they go? Like, where do they come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Like, you know, they're like, they're people.
No one out here is a Mormon, right? Just want to make sure.
Where do they come from?
Insulting anybody.
You know, like, but you're right that there's a lot that we don't know about the Mormon culture. But like, were you afraid that there would be a backlash from the Mormon Church? I know every time Disney puts out a movie, there's a huge backlash with the Baptists. They boycotted.
Backlash is good because it draws attention. You know, it was like when Kevin Smith did his Red State movie, it got so much backlash. But we actually talked to Bruce Wood, who was one of the writers and producers, who is Mormon. He was like, I don't think there'll be any backlash because it's not in their kind of way of life. They don't do a lot of protests. But when the trailer premiered, I think, on Hulu, when you read the feedback, there is actually quite a bit of like, I think it's funny because no one ever watches the movie. They're just like, oh, this is horrible. How can they do this to such a peaceful culture? But the movie's not about that. It's just about one person. One person,
kind of loses their mind a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember when we posted the trailer on our Facebook page, there was one of our readers, and our readership, I also come from, I'm managing editor of ShockToYouDrop.com, and we had a partnership with the distributor, and we helped find this film for distribution. But when we facilitated the trailer and we put it on our Facebook page, we actually had a bunch of readers, hardcore horror fans, who chimed in and they were like, this goes against our beliefs, how dare you, or insulted them. Wait a minute, you love Freddy Krueger, you love Jason Voorhees, but you have a problem with a killer Mormon. I got it.
Has there ever been a killer Mormon before? Is this a first? Because everybody says,
movies?
yeah, like they always say like, oh, everything's been done.
There hasn't been. I know that the website had listed some like articles about Mormons in history that had a reputation, but never in film before.
Yeah.
Well, you guys did it.
We did it.
You did. That's a first. Awesome. Tell me a little bit about the background of the film. How you got involved. How you guys kind of came together and were able to get this in front of audiences and get it made.
Well, I had worked with Scott Poyley, Mary Poyley, and Bruce Wood. I had worked with them before. I did a film with them in Florida called Casadega, and when we finished that, it hadn't come out yet, and they really wanted to just make another film quickly because they got like a taste for it.
And the Poyleys are the producers, and the Bruce is the writer.
Bruce and Scott wrote the script together, and Bruce was also a producer on it. I wanted to do something more dramatic because my tendencies tend to fall in the dramatic and even with horror. So they had pitched me like 3 different ideas, and the Mormon one stood out because Bruce had that tight connection to it and had grown up. He never went on a mission himself, but he knew so much about, just, it was an interesting culture, and I knew I'd be able to do something kind of unique there, telling kind of a glimpse into a world that a lot of people don't get to see. So that was it. We went into production about 6 months after I had finished that movie Casadega with them. It was an 18-day shoot, had a few months of post, and about a year till the film was completely finished. And then Ryan, I had shown it to him.
A while ago.
Before I even knew he was doing that distribution deal. He was one of the first people to see it. I just went to his house.
Were you guys friends beforehand?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Anthony
that's
and
how
I.
These things work.
Yeah.
It's nepotism.
Anthony and I had met through, because an entertainment journalist. We had met, I don't know, just through the circles.
Yeah.
And then I think it was when you were working up at Clive Barker's house. And then he had done a film called Dread that I really liked. And later on, Casadega, and then Missionary. You showed me Missionary, and then I just kind of put it at the back of my mind. I was like, okay, that's a really great film that he made. And then I would say late 2013. Yeah, late 2013, I was approached by a company called The Orchard. The Orchard was looking for a horror brand to team up with to basically curate their lineup of horror movies. They were going to basically get into the VOD market a little stronger, and they were looking for someone to kind of spearhead, their horror film acquisitions. And and the first thought I had was Missionary. That was literally the first film that I brought to them. first film I even mentioned after I texted you and was like, Missionary's still around? You're like, yeah. And once our partnership with The Orchard was brokered and once it was done, I immediately teamed them up with Anthony and the Poilies, and we got it going. It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
And then it just came out Halloween Day.
That's so great. So it took a little while to get it, you know, like you made it and it's kind of sat there for a little while. What happened with that? Like, did you take it on the festival market right after?
It did. It played festivals, and it premiered at Fantasia Fest in Canada, which I like that festival a lot. I've played there with a couple of my films, and then it played Fright Fest in the UK, in London. Shortly after, I think we made the deal with them, with Shock and The Orchard.
Yeah, I think it was one of the very first deals that we made. The thing is, though, is that with The Orchard, we wanted to make sure it got a substantial release. And in order to do that, they were still a little bit new to the game. They had specialized in music and sports documentaries and stuff like that. However, they wanted to partner up with a kind of larger theatrical distributor. So we had actually met Freestyle Releasing at the American Film Market, not this year, but last year. And we told them about it. It was like acting as Anthony's proxy, and was just like telling them. I was like, The Missionary's great. I was giving them the pitch about the movie, and they were like, oh, Fatal Attraction with a Mormon, that sounds like a great hook. That's a good hook. We could sell that, we could put that on a poster. And they could see it, they saw the vision that we had, and so The Orchard brokered a deal with Freestyle Releasing to release Missionary. So there was kind of like a threefold thing. So you had Freestyle handling the theatrical run, The Orchard handling VOD, and me smack dab in the middle doing a little bit of the marketing and the push and all that other kind of stuff.
My head is spinning right now. I'm just.
It's the distribution model.
Like,
it's all messed up.
We've never had a distributor on the show before, so this is a really special show. And I'm really excited to have you here because a lot of our filmmakers self-distribute because they just can't figure out how to navigate those waters. That's so many people had to get together in the same room and sign off on that for you to have a theatrical and VOD distribution.
The model is all messed up now.
Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, I mean, you know, the VOD, the theatrical VOD, DVD market is so all over the place. It's the Wild Wild West.
It really is.
It is. I mean, because you look at two of our October releases, The Orchard and Missionary. They're both day and date releases. That means they went into select theaters and then they went up going on VOD. You look at a movie like, just to kind of give you an indicator of just how crazy things are right now. There was a film, not to plug another movie, but called The Taking of Deborah Logan. And that film hit VOD, I don't know, sometime mid-October. A week and a half later to 2 weeks later, it was on Netflix. Yeah. It was already on Netflix instant.
Wow.
So, but the thing is that like I try to assure people is that even though everybody is probably going, but the filmmaker's not making any money. The filmmaker's screwed on because it's already on Netflix. I guarantee that they sold a really great package. Yeah. I mean, they made a package deal. Netflix paid out probably handsomely. So the fact that it's going from VOD, where it's probably being sold for $19.99, to iTunes, where people have a subscription or whatever for $7,
right.
You know, the filmmaker and the producers are taken care of. They should be okay. But
yeah, I mean, you want to get on Netflix. It's a great, you know,
What are the benefits of Netflix? Because for a lot of filmmakers said it was the opposite, that you don't make that much on Netflix, and it's better just to sell it on your own site and try to get it as many people to pay $5 for it as you can. So what are the cons and pros of that?
It's really going to depend on what you make your film for. I mean, if you're making an independent film for $10,000, then sure, I think. But if you don't have the backing, you could even have a million followers on Twitter and still not make your money. But, you know, for a movie, Missionary was $750,000. When you're getting to that $1 million mark, you need to have deals that back it up, or you'll never make any money.
Yeah.
I always think it's better. A person doesn't have the marketing power to push a movie. And at the end of the day, what really sells movies is TV advertisement. So like a movie like this, which will never have that, you know, that's the big, I think, the gap. It's like if you don't have TV advertisement behind something, that's the thing that hits people, you know, that
How
big
are you
markets.
guys marketing this show or this film?
Well, acting as the marketing partner on the film, what we're doing is, well, what was a good benefit as compared to some of our previous releases, which were direct to VOD. We've released probably 9 titles since December 2013, but none have had the. It's been busy. It hasn't had the kind of exposure that we had this time. This was next level stuff. You know, Freestyle brought in a really great publicity firm. You know, The Orchard, Freestyle, myself, we would get on calls every week, kind of strategize exactly, you know, the outreach that the publicity company was having, Prodigy, PR, you know, and they were reaching out to other outlets beyond Shock Till You Drop, you know, and basically when it came to web exposure, we were the place where it was at because we would do banner advertising. Our parent company was sending that kind of marketing out across their network of sites. They had like they have a large network. And then meanwhile, like I said, the publicity team is doing their thing, getting the talent out, going on radio, going on TV. But in terms of like advertising, like print advertising, that, you know, why pour money into that when you have online strength, you've got social strength, and, you know, outlets like ours.
And we did have a wide reach. I mean, we had a lot of markets, which was good.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how much press
There's a lot of it was a lot of theaters, but the thing is too is you got to remember, getting onto Netflix isn't as easy as people say.
No.
It's like, honestly, the whole like kind of VOD business, it's kind of like, I'm not going to talk bad about it, but it almost feels like it's like you got to know people. Like to get on the front page of like an iTunes, when you go to iTunes movies and you see like hot releases, you have to know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy that recommends, oh yeah, let's just put that on the front page, because that gives you the most exposure. You know, when we did The Canal, you know, at first we were kind of buried under, you know, like top 50 horror movies, and we're like, but The Canal just opened today. Why aren't we on the home page? Why aren't we there? And they're like, well, because it's an editorial decision. You know, and that kind of sucks, because you would figure that it's a new release, so they should put it out there, you know, and give us some exposure. But for Netflix, you need to have I think a specific theatrical rollout. You have to have a minimum guarantee of theaters that you're going to be in.
Oh my God, there's all these rules.
You start bleeding from the ears.
Oh my God.
It's just kind of like,
how do you learn all these rules? Is it in a handbook somewhere?
Honestly, no, it's not. And honestly, I mean, as someone who just jumped into this, I'm sitting on these calls going, what? And meanwhile, feeling bad for Anthony and other filmmaking friends, because it's just like, holy crap, you got to jump through hoops. You really have to jump through hoops. I could see where filmmakers will want to go and just self-distribute.
Yeah.
But there's a harm to that too. There was a great film that came out last year called The Battery, and unfortunately, they self-distributed and they couldn't, I don't know what they did with their digital rights, and it got all messed up. So when someone wanted to actually release the film on DVD, they had messed up their self-distribution game too much. So when an actual big game distributor came in and was like, I want to put this on DVD, legally it was all screwed up. But somebody came in and actually wound up doing it.
So what advice would you give then to filmmakers who know as much as I do right now? Is it the advice to like go to the American film market and put together a good package and try to find someone like yourself that really does know what they're talking about? Or is it to blindly submit to distribution companies until you find someone that's interested? Because it sounds like something that most filmmakers cannot do on their own, to have this type of release schedule.
Yeah.
I came from a different world because I started working with the studios, so I never hit a wall in terms of distribution. You know, like I've never had that worry like I'm going to make a movie and it's not going to find at least some home.
Yeah.
And I think as a filmmaker, you have to. I think your priority needs to be get as many people to see it as possible.
Of course. Which
means probably not getting the best deal. You know, but especially if you're a first-time filmmaker and you're making a feature, it's important that it does get into Walmart and Target and Best Buy and Netflix. And
Walmart is such a big component in the distribution game. Walmart is a huge thing. It's ridiculous.
I guess they probably sell more stuff.
Yeah, it's just all about stock.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about the stock and putting things on shelves.
So even if they're selling it for $5, like it's still.
It's about getting the movie in front of people. But it is really, the companies like Walmart play such. I mean, remember when we were talking, and I think this was supposed to come out like 6 months ago, and we were like, oh, we missed the Walmart window.
We missed the Walmart window, yeah.
So
because we were talking, there were different windows, because we were like, well, if we don't get the deal done by this point, then we miss out on the Netflix window for this quarter. We'll have to wait until next year. If we miss out on this window, we miss out on Walmart. And it was just...
But as a piece of advice, and this is something that anyone, because a lot of it's going to be out of your hands.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
You got to try to make the best movie you can.
Yes.
And that's only going to account for taste, and it's subjective, you know. But one thing that everyone can do is make sure your paperwork's in order. It's such a huge component to distribution, is you have to have what they call your deliverables in order. And there are so many of them. Like, just look it up online. What are deliverables? What do I need?
Just Google that. What are deliverables? What do I need?
They will give you a list of 100 things that you have to make sure you have checked off the box.
Or just even ask, anybody in the industry, if you have like, friends who have done a feature and delivered a film, they've got to have that paperwork handy.
Okay.
So just like, ask them and say, hey, can you send me your deliverables list? And then they'll send it to you. I did that once with a friend, and she sent it to me in like 5 parts. And I looked at it and I was just like,
it's huge.
I'm drowning.
But as you know, that is in your control. And I think a lot of people make movies and they don't even think. I had a friend with Joe Daly, who you know.
Yep.
He jumped on board a film that he liked as trying to get a distribution. Joe was a producer on Dread and worked with me with Clive for a lot of years. But he liked this little horror film a lot. He put some of his own money into it to get a better sound mix. And he called me up and he was like, yeah, so one of the lead guys in the movie is wearing a Flash t-shirt. And I'm like, you're fucked. Like, can I say that?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. You can say fuck 100 times in a row and nobody will say anything.
And he was. It's like, and that is something that you need to know. Don't buy a Flash t-shirt
And that's
at Target.
not something you can take back or deal with later if you sell the film?
Well, I mean, you can pay someone to digitally remove it, but that's
your best case scenario.
Yeah.
Because you'll never get Warner Brothers to sign off on, your lead character wearing a Flash t-shirt.
It's really cool if you're going to make a movie about geeks and you want to have people wearing geeky stuff and you want to have like branding everywhere, but it doesn't help your movie, like in the long run legally.
Yeah.
Once you've made a great movie, finding a sales rep is probably key.
Yeah.
The American film market is a great place to go find one. But the American Film Market Facebook page has a link to their main site, and you can get a directory of sales reps. But basically what a sales rep does is they'll look at your film, and if they like your film, they'll take it on, and they'll help you find a distributor. And yeah. And they'll help you find a distributor, and then what will occur is if they wind up, selling it to a distributor, they'll get a cut.
Okay.
They'll get a cut of that sale.
That's something that I can put in my brain somewhere.
Yeah, so I mean that's what the American film market is you go down there and it's all these sales reps. Not only sales reps also can help you find financing sometimes if you've got partial financing in place. I dealt with this a little bit myself last year when I was trying to get a project off the ground, and there was a sales rep that was like, okay, if you can bring 50% in, we'll find the rest. We'll just shop it out to foreign reps and see if we can get some foreign financing. However, we're going to need you to put Nicolas Cage in it. Or something like that. They always try to find some hook or some selling point. But sales reps can be your friends. So. Do
you have any advice or any websites that people should go to know how to put together a package when they're going to places like American Film Market, so that they look professional? They know how to sell it?
Honestly, there is no place. The best thing to do is just ask friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also I had someone send me something today that was their lookbook for a feature that I'm trying to help them find a home for. And he just did it on his own, It was just a PDF file. Each page had a really cool graphic and, a still from the movie and then, a little bit of text. I mean, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a PowerPoint presentation,
Yeah.
Just put together something that you would like to see. Make it really creative. Make it stand out.
Yeah.
Make it indicative of the film itself. If the film stands on its own, fantastic. But this is your selling point. So, but sales reps more often than not, they want to see a really cool cut trailer, or a clip, and they want to see the film.
Yeah.
And then they'll deal with the rest. They'll deal with like the pitch stuff. They'll deal with the cool artwork or the really lame artwork, depending on what you see.
But again, it's don't be afraid to give away that percentage, because I think some people do. They finish a movie, they put a lot of money into it, and they're like, well, I got to worry about making that back, but that can you can lose opportunities.
How much money would you say that you should set aside from your whole budget to put into the marketing of the film after it's been made?
That is a trick. That I can answer that question, but no one will ever do it, and including myself, because you want to put as much money into the film. But I mean, a lot of people will say half the budget. I mean, if you're, because it's a huge part of it, but no one can do that, I think, when you're working in independent film. But I think it's smart to keep at least, 20% of your budget for that kind of stuff when because you're going to need it. You're going to need money for travel. You're going to need money for these, getting a booth or even going to these markets. It's not like free. You can't just walk in and sell a movie. Yeah. And you need to make sure you have enough money for post-production and the finishing costs, which is hard as well, I think.
And also probably festivals, and going to festivals, that's expensive, especially if you're going out of town. And you said you went to the one festival in Canada. Did you go to any other festivals as well? Did you find festivals beneficial for the marketing of the film after it was made?
I think, yes. I think any sales rep will say a festival is important to get a premiere at, even if it's not, the Toronto's, Sundance, Tellurides, Tribeca's, they're hard, and I think even more so in this climate of this, it is like a wild, wild west now. I think even the studios are struggling to hold on to their money. That's why you see more tent poles and the focus, and also why you see a lot of productions teaming together. What did I just see? It was Warner Brothers and Paramount. You're going to see a lot more of that, because to take on a cost to make a $300 million movie, the companies are merging.
But even, I think that Sundance, Tribeca, that's all for show.
It is
honestly,
show,
it's for show, because there are a lot of great smaller festivals like Fantastic Fest, Fantasia. I'm naming off genre horror festivals. Because,
South by Southwest.
But South by Southwest, stuff like that. What comes out of those is, if your film's really great buzz. Great buzz, because you've got outlets like Entertainment Weekly now down there, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, all these guys are down there. And that advanced buzz and those positive reviews that'll come out of those fests impact the sale. They impact if you're looking for distribution, the sales reps, whoever's repping the film, is going to be looking for that stuff, and that'll drive the value up on your film a little bit. So when a distributor comes to the table and says, "Hey, I want to buy this movie," they're like, "Oh yeah, well, okay, great. Well, all these great reviews, we know what we have now, So I think festivals can be your friend, but don't get down on yourself if you don't get into Sundance or anything like that.
Now, we got into a little bit of the distribution portion of it, but you got a really interesting story as far as how you got involved with this production company.
Like when I first came out here, I'm from Boston. I had gone to Emerson, and this isn't the company I made Missionary with, but when I first met Ryan, I was working with Clive Barker, and I had gone to Emerson in Boston. I went to Emerson because they had a good LA extension. And I knew that, okay, so I'll go to LA my final semester, and I'll stay in Los Angeles, which I did. And I had that window when I was in LA to, you have to get an internship, but you have to get an internship or they send you home. And I was only taking one class at the time because I had enough credits. That was all I needed for graduation. So I ended up interning at Marvel Studios, which at the time they had not released Spider-Man yet. So I really didn't have a lot to do there. They had just made Spider-Man. They were in post-production on it. And I was spending most of the day photocopying comic books and stuff. So I just called my advisor and I said, is there anything else I can do? Because I don't want to waste the time about being in LA, which is a huge part about kind of getting a foot in the door. Is just, you have to capitalize on every minute you have free to make opportunities for yourself. So I asked her about horror because it was something I was interested in at the time and had been all my life because of special makeup effects and stuff like that. And she gave me a list of the usual suspects like John Carpenter and Wes Craven's company, and Clive was on there, and Joe Daly had gone to Emerson for a year. He wasn't an alum, but he had gone there for a short amount of time.
Joe Daly worked for Clive Barker's company?
Worked for Clive at the time.
Okay. So the Alumni Connect.
It was the Alumni. It was like, that's my best shot in, because I can use that. And I just hounded him until, said, do you need an intern? And he's like, nah, not really. But I would just call him weekly the time I was here and be like, I have free time and come down, just convince him. And he was a great guy to talk to on the phone. He was nice. And just keep putting yourself out there. And that's what I did. And then he brought me in finally for a meeting with Clive. And I think I had told you when we talked that, like, at the time, that was certainly the most important meeting I'll ever have in my life, because it was that meeting that put me into the business. It gave me that window in. It gave me that doorway into that. And I had gotten that job right out of college. So I had a job when I went back to Boston to graduate. So I was thrown into the fire producing.
You lucky devil.
I guess, it's
when I met him, he was like, yeah, so we got this project in the works, and we want to do this movie, and I'm writing this for Clive. I was like, wait a minute, you just got out of film school?
Yeah. How does that work, that you go from asking for a free internship to producing?
Well, it was I think it was also working with Clive was a unique situation because he's an artist.
Yeah.
He's eclectic and he's creative, and the company, we were like a bunch of misfits, and so I went in and saw there's room for growth here.
Yeah, obviously.
Because it was like, if you show initiative and you're creative, Clive's going to get behind you. But I was like thrown into these meetings with all these. We had projects at like every studio in Los Angeles, which was crazy. And
tell me the story about how he always introduced you as his partner.
Yeah. So, I was. He did. But I always thought it was hilarious. It's like, I was only like 22 at the time, and I was getting put in meetings I had no business to go into, because, they were with literally the heads of the studios. So because Clive could get those meetings, So Clive would go in, and I'd go with Joe, and I was like the only straight guy in the company at the time. And every time they'd bring me in, Joe would always introduce, "Here, this is my partner, Anthony DiBlasi." And I could see on some of their faces, they were like, why is he bringing his boyfriend to these meetings? Because I was so much younger than they were, and
you just go with it.
I just go with it. But it was funny, because not until I could see it on their face, and not until later, Joe and I talked about it, is that someone actually asked him, like, why do you keep bringing your boyfriend to these meetings? He's like, no, partner, like business partner. He works for the company. Like, okay, that makes sense. But it was a great opportunity.
But the thing about you is that he has no fear. He says what he means, and sometimes you're a risk taker. That's a great thing. That's what I think got you through the door really fast, because you knew the material really well. You connect on a creative level that I've never seen before with other filmmakers, and I think that's why you've had a quick ascension. No fear.
No fear.
Can't have any fear.
Can't have fear.
So when were you introduced, and how did this friendship form?
I honestly don't remember, but it's been like 10 years.
A lot of stories.
Yeah.
It was good. I think it was simply because, was it on Midnight Meat Train?
No, I think it was before that.
Before Midnight Meat Train? Somewhere along the way. There used to be a little a horror community here in Los Angeles, and we called ourselves something really pretentious. And it was called Fright Club. And we had super pretentious. But we had James Wan, we had Darren Bousman, we had James Gunn, all these guys.
Yeah.
They were all our buddies. We basically every week we would go and support whatever horror movie was opening out that week. We would lead in with some dinner, and then go out to this movie, and then along the way we all went, why are we blowing our money on these awful, awful movies? Like, this is a terrible idea. So then Fright Club broke up. But I think you were part of all that. We had a business card too.
I came in towards the end of that.
You came in towards the end. Yeah, but you weren't worthy yet.
No, I think you had dissolved the business card.
Oh, had I?
Do you still resent that? Do you
No.
Did you secretly go make your own business cards?
Did you just make your own wannabe card?
Fright Club.
But yeah, we just met through that, and because I was working at Fangoria at the time, and that got me in a lot of doors, and a lot more directors paid attention to the entertainment journalist, and then you did Dread, and I flew out to set for that. And
that was back when like we had money to make. I was thinking
a lot
about
of people had money.
I know I was thinking about the other day, like when because Dread, I shot that movie in the UK, and I had we had made a movie called Book of Blood, and I was a producer in that, which we shot in Scotland. So I had spent this time in the UK, and I remember having enough, it was enough in the budget that I flew him and another one of our friends,
another Fright Club
Spooky
member.
Dan, down to London.
You guys had nicknames too?
Oh, he's always got a nickname. That's always his. Spooky Dan stuck.
That's his name.
That's his name.
But
yeah, you flew us out.
Flew them out.
You had production money to fly us out.
Set visit to the UK.
And mind you, I mean, like Clark, it was Seraphim. That was what it was. Seraphim. They're an independent company. It might have Clive Barker's name attached, but they were still moving on. You were operating on independent means. So when we got a phone call and they're like, "Yeah, we want to fly you out to London," I was like, "Oh, really? I've never been to London. This is fantastic. Where do you got the money?" Listen, you don't have to. Don't put me in like the stock seat somewhere. Put me in the back of the plane. I don't want to like take it out of your budget. You're like, no. This is for publicity. I was like, oh, okay.
Now, how important has being part of a community been to both of your careers?
Oh, wow.
Because it is a very small world, the horror world.
It's...
Tell me more, Anthony.
It's funny because he's telling that story. It is, like on Halloween, we do end up, you go to a Halloween party and we all do know each other.
We all wind up at the same place.
But I think like, I've always been more on the fringe of that. Yeah. It's not like I'm not at all the events and stuff, and I'm friends with a good amount of them. Like Ryan and
you keep 1 foot in just to be friendly enough where it's not like, you still know everybody, you still support everybody, but you smartly focus on your own work. Yeah. Some people get swept up in it. Some filmmakers get swept up in the idea of, well, I'm going to do this, and we're going to collaborate, and it's going to be this and that. And I've seen too many filmmakers, looking for more of the social scene than the creative scene, and then now they're not doing anything. Anthony has always focused on his work. He's had a. It
is a balance. It's a
tricky balance.
It is because some people will do very well with the social scene because a lot of it is networking.
It is. It's important.
I think because when I was working with Clive, I was you're just taken on a different path. Yeah. So I've always been one to just like, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? Like,
but you've also always relied on the personal relationships that you've developed with the people that you've worked with as well. So that kind of also becomes a small community in itself.
And that's how you build, well, obviously, since we're both sitting here, it's like, that's how you do build your network team or people you trust and rely on.
Yeah.
And not just as friends, but people you're going to make movies with.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, you broke outside of the LA scene and you found your collaborators in Florida. Scott and Mary
Talk to me about Florida. How did you guys get down there, and what were the benefits of shooting that far away?
Florida just came about from Scott and Mary, who had seen Dread. There was just Scott had spent a good amount of years. He had gone to film school, wanted to be a producer, and he had spent a lot of years cultivating financial relationships, which is frankly the hardest part of the business. It's something that you could probably ask either of us, and we'd be like, that's a whole different talent in itself to be able to find money. And you need to know those people, or you won't ever make a movie. But Scott is just extremely good at that, and he had raised $1 million from equity from like doctors and dentists and just people in Florida, because that community is pretty wealthy in Orlando. And they had flown down to LA, took a couple meetings with filmmakers like anybody else. They had seen Dread, and
so they had the money before they found the filmmakers.
They had the money.
Which is smart.
Yeah, I mean, it is smart. But how do you get people to give you your money without even knowing what they're giving it for?
Him and Bruce had tried to get together like I think $10 million to make a comedy. And when they realized that was hard, like extremely hard, they said, okay, well, we have enough people that trust us that we can probably get $1 million together. Why don't we write a script that's a horror thriller, which is always a good way into the business. It's a good, because because it's a very accepting audience, you know, and very
easy sells too.
Yeah, fervent audience. They want it. You know, they want the next movie, whatever it is. So they were smart to do that, to take that move, and also I think smart to come to Los Angeles and make those connections instead of trying to make a movie with local people in Florida, because they're not. They don't have the pool of I think resources or experience.
Yeah.
So that we merely make the movies in Florida because that's where their money's coming from, and that's where they're based. And it's we can get locations for so cheap in Florida.
Oh yeah, and you also got a lot of crew too, right? From the schools. Did that help?
Yeah, we use Full Sail University a lot for a lot of the post-production facilities, and they have Full Sail University and Valencia, and on Missionary we use Valencia for a lot of the crew. The programs they have down there with the universities are like, you know, we have equipment. You take some of our students on the production, you can use some of our equipment or the stuff that you need, and that's always been a good trade-off. That you save a lot of money that way, for the most part.
Talk to me a little bit about casting process too. You guys had some really great, really fantastic actors. Dawn Olivieri and Mitch Ryan.
Yeah, Dawn was the first one we got on board, and I saw Dawn on The Vampire Diaries, I think a couple years before. I was watching The Vampire Diaries at the time. So
you just admitted to it.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to say it. But she was great on that show, and she was just someone we made an offer to, sent her the script, and you know, her team liked a lot, and then I took a meeting with her. You know, casting and it's how it goes on a lot of these projects, is you kind of shoot for the stars, and you want some kind of name value, and you usually do a couple weeks of casting in Los Angeles. We had a casting director in LA, also a casting director in Florida, and we found Mitch through that process. Just he came in and auditioned, and I told you before, like he wasn't in the room, he wasn't my first choice. You know, we were still talking about a lot of people, but his agent kind of reached out and says, you know, Mitch wants to talk to you on the phone, and he's really passionate about this project. Again, making the effort, putting yourself out there.
I think because that's very similar to what you did to get your job, and like I've never heard of actors like, you know, saying like, can you just get me on the phone with him? Just I know I can convince him. Like, did that freak you out a little bit, or like you were like,
no, not at all. Which is, I think, you know, it is good to do that. You could lose, but why not try? I think.
Yeah.
I think it is always, if you can put yourself out there, it's always better. Because the second I got on the phone with him and had talked to him for an hour, I was like, this is the guy, let's hire him. And I couldn't be more happy with what he brought to the project.
Were you worried at all that he wouldn't be able to pull off an American accent? He's Australian, the actor.
I wasn't, because I didn't know he was Australian. Which is smart. I think if you do have an accent as an actor, never give it away. I think you just have to come in. If they're looking for someone with an American accent, you be American until you get the job.
That's good advice. That's good advice.
I know, yeah.
Well, we've got some questions from the audience that I'm going to pull up over here on Meeting Pulse. We've used this really great web app called meetingpulse.net. And the first question from our audience is, are you currently accepting any missionary positions? Somebody's got a sense of humor.
You're going to have to ask my girlfriend.
All right. She's in the audience here. The next one, we'll skip ahead.
We'll skip ahead.
I won't put you guys on the spot. The next one is, I have many producer friends. What is the best way to attract your attention as a distributor?
We just have something that really stands out. The last year has been really interesting and has been a really great journey with The Orchard, because as their quote-unquote tastemaker or curator, you know, I get fielded a lot of stuff. I get sent a lot of stuff. They try to, you know, kind of filter some of the stuff out. Like I tell them, no found footage. I don't want to see another found footage movie, or I will blow a gasket. I don't care. It's got to have a really great concept, or I don't want to see it, because all found footage movies have been the same. It's just got to have a great hook. It's got to have a really interesting premise. That's for me, you know, because I'm speaking as, you know, a genre fan, a horror fan, and also just a movie fan. and the stuff I've looked for, you know, like Missionary. Missionary stood out because it was slick, had a great cast, but it had a great voice. That's the thing. I always tell that to filmmakers in panels that I do. Be a filmmaker who comes to the subject matter with a specific voice. If your voice doesn't gel with that subject matter, maybe it's not the right film for you. You know, because it won't shine through. You know, I think with Missionary, Anthony had obviously the writer who had a stake, you know, emotional stake in the material, and then Anthony connected with it and he brought it through. So have a great voice and let that show on the screen. That's my answer.
If an indie filmmaker can't afford TV ad space, are we to rely on a PR team, social networks, and such for marketing?
Yes, because I think, you know, we couldn't afford TV space. I mean, that's a whole different audience. But I think going back to the point of finding a sales agent and getting, you know, if you can get a sales agent, sell your movie, and then getting a PR team behind it that it's about their connections, you know, and that, you know, getting even a review of Variety, you have to get a movie in front of Variety and things like that. So I think you just take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
To which you can do by renting out any number of the screening rooms here in Los Angeles, excuse me, and, you know, pull in people. I mean, it's going to be really tough, speaking also as someone on the press side, you know, to get an email that says, hey, I'd like to invite you to Raleigh Studios to check this movie out. Here's the trailer. If I'm turned off right then and there, you're not going to get the review you want, obviously. Also, you know, don't reach out to press until you are ready to have someone see your movie. Do not do it. Because honestly, what's going to happen is you're going to have a film with no distribution. Someone's going to review your film. You know, in the off chance that it winds up getting reviewed poorly, that affects sales reps, that affects distribution, that affects everything down the line. And that can be harmful. The
next question is, did you cut the trailer in-house or go to a trailer house? And did you edit the film as well?
I edited the film, yeah, and then we've had this trailer specifically was done
Trailer House.
By Trailer House, right?
Well, I don't know who it was, but it was a trailer house that did it.
And I think the Orchard facilitated that trailer. We had cut a trailer in-house.
And it was a good one.
Yeah, and then there was another trailer that our foreign
the sales reps
cut together, and then this is a third one, which is our theatrical trailer.
Basically, we farmed it out to a specific trailer house, and then they cut it to certain standards, and then made sure he was creatively involved and he liked it first before we passed it on.
How long does a trailer have to be these days? They used to be, you know, 30 seconds of a TV spot, and now that's all you get. But now with the internet, I see 5-minute trailers.
I think that's too long. I think under 2 minutes is a safe number.
Yeah, two and a half.
Yeah, 2.5.
But what I'm seeing is a really interesting model with the trailer editing these days. Is they'll find a specific scene that really sells the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
They'll show a scene for a minute and a half, and then they'll go you know, with a bunch of stuff.
Which I think is a smart thing to do as well.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges, if any, that you faced on set?
No challenges.
It was
gators,
alligators,
Mormons.
Did you guys have any Mormons like go by while you guys were shooting at any point?
We did, and Scott, being how he is, he pulled his car over and made me take a picture with them. And it was very awkward. But I still have that picture. I should have put it in here. He was like, we're making a movie about missionaries right now. And they're like, oh, really? Little did they know.
Missionaries who want to kill you.
Yeah. But there's, I mean, on any film, the challenges are always different. Usually, it has to do with securing locations or having you get a location you like. On this, specifically the house. Got this house that it was really hard finding a house that was isolated in the area of Orlando we shot in. And we were like, okay, this house is good. Now, the woman who owned it, she was really strange. And we knocked on her door, and she's
from Florida.
Yes, she's from Florida. That's completely valid. Having spent a lot of time in Florida, I would also say the same thing. Florida breeds serial killers. Most of the prolific serial killers are from Florida. I have no issue saying that. She agreed to do it, but it was a weird thing. We had to wait outside, and Scott went in at night. It was scary. it was like no lights because it was very isolated. She was like very suspicious of us, and she let Scott in, and we were watching through the window. Well, it turned out that...
You guys were like videotaping the whole time. Like, we're here. If he doesn't come out, you guys have a backup plan, right?
Well, it turned into a very... Once she had us there, she was like, this is horrible. And there's nothing that can kill your movie faster than someone telling you, get out. Because you've already shot footage and you can't. So as a good producer, as he did, you have to do whatever it is to say, no, we cannot leave. So if I have to give you more money, that's it. But comes to find out that her husband had assaulted her and gone to jail. Because we were finding things in the house. She had like alarms on every door in her house. She was very terrified of this man coming back into her life who had gone to prison for like 2 years. And he was getting out. It was all very dramatic.
Bad timing.
But yeah, it was like and she ended up calling our producer the devil, Scott. Because he just
producers usually are.
Yeah, I mean they have to
be.
But we finished the movie and it was good. But she was freaky.
Wow.
But I guess every right to be freaky.
Yeah, but that will put an end to any movie right in the middle.
It really,
with your whole budget.
Kill
Somebody
you.
takes your location away. That's scary in itself. I'm glad it worked out. Are you seeing any genres or trends right now that are popular with producers and filmmakers?
It's going through a phase where there's nothing that's really latching on other than supernatural. When speaking genre-wise, supernatural horror is the way to go, and I say that as Anthony brings a psychological thriller into the market. But yeah, supernatural, possessions, exorcism stuff. But the thing is don't look at trends.
Yeah,
don't look at don't look at trends.
You're 3 years behind the curve.
By the time you write it, by the time you get it made,
it'll already pass, or it'll already go through two cycles already. But listen, just tell the story you want to tell. Don't worry about that. You know, if you have a new twist on a serial killer movie, do it. If you have a new twist on a killer truck movie, go for it. You know, just wow us.
You just gotta make a movie
killer
you
truck
are
movies.
passionate about. There's not enough killer.
There's not enough Maximum Overdrive.
No, there isn't. There isn't.
All right. The next question is, what made you decide to go with the greeny indie look on the cinematography? I
had told the DP, I was very specific that I wanted it to feel more like a documentary than a feature. And if you watch the movie, you'll notice that there's not a lot of straight-on shots on an actor's face. It's usually either behind their head or profile, because the camera was always meant to follow and find the shot instead of creating the shot. And I think the look is something that adjusts throughout the way. I had probably given him a couple examples of movies I wanted it to feel like, and I gravitated to things that looked very kind of indie and raw. And then you change the look as you go through the color correction process and like that. But I think the look you can always come back to and adjust, because now with the cameras it's like you're lighting for kind of a raw feel, and then you tweak it as you go. But certainly camera wise, we decided to make it feel very documentary like. Another question is, are you interested in the popular trend of horror movie sequels? Do you think there will be a Missionary 2? I do not. I think there will be Missionary 2.
Son of Missionary?
Son of Missionary.
Bride of Missionary? Missionary's Revenge? I don't know.
I like sequels. I
like sequels too.
I've done 2 movies now that I hope there are another one with these guys that I do hope
needs a sequel.
Do hope breeds a sequel.
Yeah, sequels aren't bad. We were seeing a lot of prequels. I also like inventive filmmakers who want to tell sidequels. Sidequels are like
are exciting.
They're exciting and interesting because you're telling a story that happens at the same time as the previous film. If you have like Saw 4, I think Saw 4 was the one that did that. But yeah, sequels are all right as long as you have like a cool take on it. The next question is, was there nudity in the film? And if so, how hard was it to deal with nudity clauses in the contracts?
There was nudity in the film, and I think when the film was written, I had anticipated more nudity. Yeah, I mean, it was
Anthony loves nudity.
Well, it was.
Anthony loves nudity.
It was meant to be more of an erotic thriller. That once I did I think you have to be, as a filmmaker, willing to, once you see your cast together and go with what they're bringing to you as artists. So I tweaked it as we went, but nudity clauses are definitely some of the hardest things you'll have to deal with. If you have an actress or an actor that is bound by them, and they can get extreme. As a filmmaker, they're cumbersome in the sense that they can be so specific. Like, you can show X's left nipple for 3 seconds at 1 minute and 38 minutes into that scene, you know. So I try to get, I think, and as a producer tries, because the way I shoot is a lot of improv and stuff like that. And we'll block out a sex scene, get the general idea of what's meant to happen. But I like to try to just be creative in the moment and see what they're doing and feeling, you know. So things like that, I try to get more of a broad, you know, actress is going to be topless, you know, or and the scenes, these are the specific scenes in the script that require it, you know, scene 54 and scene 78. And then it gives us more freedom, but they can be very, very specific, laughably so.
There was one production I worked on, I won't name what it is, but I featured an actress who was a former model, showed a lot in the past, but now that she was becoming a respectable actress, she didn't want to do that. So what they wound up doing was they cast a mold of her breasts, and then what she wound up doing was taking her shirt off and putting the mold over her breasts anyway, so they were still screen accurate. But she didn't want to be, I don't know what the point was. So
maybe
it was weird.
Maybe it was modesty on her part? Like, how do you
Maybe. I don't know, but that costs money to have the effects guys create the molds, create it, you know, paint it, all of that stuff, and then apply it. You know, that's all time.
I mean, I understand. For any actor, they're in the most vulnerable position during a sex scene, and you have, you know, But I know, yes, I know the story you're talking about, which I think is funny too, because you watch it and you're like, oh, she's naked in it, but she's not. Psych, she's not.
And it wasn't a sex scene either, but it was it was very unusual. But they can get, like Anthony said, they can get really tricky.
But you know, again, that's not coming from the actor either. It's really about, as a director, you can just go in and have a conversation and just say, this is what I want from you, and let's be respectful. It's the agents and stuff that they want to protect their actors, so they're going to be as specific as possible. But you know, sometimes it's funny to read them. Yeah.
Well, we have time for just one more question. We got to make it quick because we're running short on time. But it's the question that I ask every filmmaker that comes in here. If you could look back over your career, the last more than 10 years or so, what is the one advice that you'd give to new filmmakers, or the one lesson that you wish you had starting out?
For me, it was, you know, just creating your own opportunities. I think you have to, if you're not happy with your position in terms of getting somewhere in a career, you know, even if there's only 24 hours in a day, getting your foot in the door, if you have to spend 20 of those hours getting your foot in the door, and hopefully you're younger at the time to do that, so you don't exhaust yourself. But you just have to, and I think you just have to get out there and make those connections. And you know, if you're home on a Friday night watching a movie, go out and try to meet other filmmakers and meet people, because that's what leads to jobs.
Yeah. And Ryan, what would you say would be your biggest lesson?
Don't be nostalgic. Don't be nostalgic when it comes to, you know, your creativity. I know, like, a lot, it's really easy to rely on, you know, telling stories that you grew up on, you know, but that's not progressive. That doesn't get you moving forward. So, I mean, I fell victim to it myself. When I was in film school, I was like, oh, I'm going to do Halloween, but it's going to be this. And, you know, and people call me out on it, you know. So don't be so nostalgic. And I see it in a lot of features today and a lot of films that come through for distribution. And I'm like, no, you're just trying to rip this off and you're trying to do this. You're not establishing your own identity. So, and I don't think nostalgia does that. You know, don't be a risk taker when it comes to creativity.
It's good to know. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Let's give a big round of applause. Very informative. And thank you for watching. Did you guys find that inspiring? Did you learn something new? Then you won't want to miss out on the next one. Hit the subscribe button to watch more movies or more videos just like this, or subscribe to iTunes podcast, and you can listen to us in the car. We'll see you next time. All right, thank you guys. That was awesome. Thank you guys so much.